There's an uncomfortable truth that almost no one dares to admit. Most conversations aren't about connection, they're about control. While you believe you're just exchanging ideas, someone, consciously or unconsciously, is trying to steer the direction, set the pace, and gain an advantage. And if you don't realize it, you're already at a disadvantage. Machiavelli already understood that politics guided by reality, not ideals, doesn't only happen in palaces or wars. It happens in every everyday interaction. At work, in friendships, in relationships. The end justifies the means. And in this invisible game, whoever reads people best wins without needing to raise their voice. Now answer me honestly. How many times have you left a conversation feeling like you could have said something better, or that you were led without realizing it? That's not a lack of intelligence. It's a lack of strategic reading. And here's the point, almost no one tells you. Mastering conversations has nothing to do with talking more, arguing better, or impressing with knowledge. It has to do with understanding human patterns and knowing how to use them to your advantage. Better to be feared than loved. Perhaps in this context, it's more powerful to be indecipherable than predictable. Because when you understand how people think, react, reveal themselves, you stop being reactive and become strategic. The appearance of virtue may deceive for a while, but behavior always reveals the truth. Virtue and fortune favor those who know how to observe, test, and act at the right moment. And what you're going to learn here isn't common communication. These are techniques that few master because they require something rare, the courage to see human nature as it really is, without filters, without romanticization. And when you start applying this, conversations cease to be random encounters and become territories where you dictate the rules. If something inside you awakened while listening, don't ignore that feeling. This channel isn't about videos, it's about memories. Remember who you were before the fear, before the exhaustion, before the silence. Each new video here is a different reflection of your own soul, an invitation to understand what the world never taught you. The power you seek outside has always been within you. If you feel that this journey speaks to what lives silently within you, sign up now. Not to follow yet another creator, but to reconnect with something the world tried to make you forget. Because here, every word was made to heal, each reflection to awaken, and each video serves as a reminder. You are not alone on the path back to yourself. Click on subscribe and turn the algorithm into a daily reminder of who you really are. There's a silent, almost invisible moment where someone's true nature effortlessly slips out, not when they're trying to impress you, but when they believe no one important is watching. A good observer, as Machiavelli would teach, understands that human essence isn't revealed in speeches, but in small, neglected actions. It's there, in the way you treat the waiter, the ride-share driver, the intern, that you see what that person truly thinks about power, hierarchy, and respect. Because ultimately, politics guided by reality, not ideals, demands that you abandon the illusion that people are who they say they are. They are what they do when they don't need to pretend. Notice, for example, someone who smiles at you but completely ignores the person serving the table. That's not distraction. It's a pattern, and patterns are more reliable than words. A true leader understands that how someone treats the invisible reveals how they will treat you when they no longer see you as useful. Avoiding being hated doesn't mean being kind. It means being strategically respectful. And this is built with consistency, not performance. Want a simple test? The next time you go out with someone, observe how that person reacts to a small mistake by the server. Impatience, irony, indifference. Each reaction is a piece of the puzzle. And the more you observe, the more you realize that the social game isn't about outward appearances of virtue. It's about coherence between behavior and intention. Virtù and fortuna favor those who see beyond the mask. Now, the most interesting thing is that upon realizing this, you begin to understand that power is not something fixed, it's a flow. Today, someone may be above, tomorrow below. And those who master human relations know how to navigate this flow with precision. The calculated use of force in this context is not about imposing, it's about interpreting. Imagine a corporate scenario. Two candidates are competing for a position. Both are competent, but one treats everyone with genuine respect, while the other only makes an effort with those who can benefit them. Who do you think builds stronger alliances over time? Your own loyal armies are not formed with superficial charisma, but with consistent behavior. And this begins in small interactions. Decisions based on real human nature lead you to value these invisible signals. Because in the end justifies the means. And if someone is willing to disrespect those who cannot react, that says a lot about the means they will use when under pressure. Constant adaptability also comes into play here. You adjust your perception, learn to read nuances, and begin to anticipate behaviors. And when you start to see this clearly, you realize that perhaps you've ignored important signs before. And then an inevitable question arises. If people reveal so much when they're not being observed, what happens when you simply decide not to react and let the silence do the work? There's a type of power that most people completely ignore because it doesn't make a sound. While many believe that dominating a conversation means speaking well, arguing quickly, or impressing with intelligence, the most strategic understand something deeper. Silence is a weapon. And not just any weapon, it's a tool of revelation. Machiavelli already made it clear, even if indirectly, that politics guided by reality, not by ideals, requires absolute emotional control. When someone talks too much, they expose intentions, insecurity, a need for validation. But when you remain silent, you create a void. And human beings hate emptiness. They try to fill it, and it is in this effort that they reveal themselves. Imagine a negotiation. The other person makes a proposal and you just look. No reaction, no hurry, no words. The discomfort begins to grow. They adjust their discourse, perhaps even improve the offer, trying to regain control. The end justifies the means. And silence here is the most elegant way to exert pressure without seeming aggressive. Better to be feared than loved. Sometimes, better to be indecipherable than predictable. Because those who talk too much give themselves away, but those who observe in silence reap the benefits. Now, silence is not absence, it's controlled presence. There's a stark difference between remaining silent out of insecurity and using silence as a strategy. In the first case, you hide. In the second, you dominate. Avoiding being hated in this context doesn't mean being passive, but knowing when not to react. A practical example, someone provokes you, expecting an emotional response. If you react, you play their game, but if you only observe with slight curiosity, something breaks. The person loses their script. The appearance of virtue here transforms into the appearance of neutrality, and that's confusing. Virtù and fortuna favor those who know how to wait for the right moment to act. And silence creates that moment. It's as if you were saying, without words, I am not controlled by you. A calculated use of force isn't about shouting louder. It's about choosing when not to speak. Your own loyal armies are built by those who inspire respect, not by those who compete for attention. Decisions based on real human nature show that people speak more when they are not interrupted and contradict themselves when they are not guided. Constant adaptability comes into play when you learn to use silence in different ways, to observe, to pressure, to test. And when you begin to realize how much the other person reveals just to fill the void, a dangerous insight emerges. What if you simply stop offering anything? What would people do to try to extract something from you? There's an invisible expectation in every human interaction, a kind of silent contract where people expect to receive something: attention, validation, help, energy. And that's exactly where one of the most revealing tactics you can apply lies. When you simply offer nothing, the game changes completely. Machiavelli already taught, even without using those words, that politics guided by reality, not by ideals, requires observing how people react when they can't extract immediate advantage. Because while you give, everything seems harmonious, but when you take away, the truth appears. Imagine someone who always comes to talk to you, but you subtly decide not to start a conversation, not to offer an opinion, not to fuel the interaction. What happens? Does the person insist? Do they distance themselves? Do they become uncomfortable? Or do they try to manipulate the situation to regain control? The end justifies the means, and many people reveal their means when they realize the flow is no longer in their favor. Better to be feared than loved. Sometimes better to be scarce than available. Because excessive availability creates contempt, while scarcity creates interest. And this is a silent but extremely powerful test. Now, the most interesting thing is that this tactic doesn't require confrontation, just strategic absence. Avoiding being hated here means not cutting off abruptly, but adjusting your delivery. An appearance of virtue can be maintained. You remain polite, present, but don't offer more than necessary. And this generates a type of psychological friction that few know how to handle. A practical example: you always respond to messages quickly, attentively, and thoroughly. Suddenly you start responding more neutrally, without expanding on the subject. Observe. Does the person try to push you further? Do they get irritated? Do they disappear? Or do they adapt to your new rhythm? Virtù and fortuna favor those who understand that relationships are exchanges. And when the exchange becomes unbalanced, the real dynamic appears. Calculated use of force in this case is knowing when to stop feeding the game. Your own loyal armies are not formed based on dependence, but on mutual respect. Decisions based on real human nature show that many connections are sustained by convenience, not by value. Constant adaptability comes into play when you adjust your presence according to the other person's behavior. And when you start to realize who stays even when you offer nothing, a new, almost inevitable question arises. What happens when you completely break the script that people expect from you? Most people live trapped in invisible scripts, patterns of behavior they repeat without realizing it. They expect certain responses, anticipate reactions, and feel safe when everything follows the script. And that's exactly why interrupting this pattern becomes one of the most powerful tactics to reveal who is in front of you. Machiavelli understood that politics guided by reality, not by ideals, requires breaking illusions, and patterns are the biggest of them. When someone believes they understand you, they relax, and it is in this relaxation that they become predictable. Now imagine the opposite. You respond unexpectedly, you act outside the norm, you don't react as expected. Suddenly, control slips. The end justifies the means, and breaking the script is a direct way to access the truth behind the mask. Better to be feared than loved? Perhaps at certain times it is more effective to be unpredictable than understood, because whoever cannot predict you cannot manipulate you. A simple example: someone makes a joke expecting you to laugh. You just observe with slight curiosity. Discomfort arises. Or someone expects you to automatically agree, and you ask an unexpected question. This forces the person to switch off autopilot, and when they do, they reveal who they really are. Now, disrupting patterns isn't about being strange or artificial. It's about being strategic. Avoiding being hated remains important. You don't want to generate unnecessary resistance, but rather create small, intelligent disruptions. The appearance of virtue here transforms into the appearance of authenticity. You seem spontaneous, but you're being intentional. Virtù and fortuna favor those who know when to break the flow. Calculated use of force comes into play when you choose the exact moment to interrupt, neither too early nor too late. Think of a meeting. Everyone follows a linear line of reasoning, agreeing with the dominant idea. You calmly introduce an outlier, not to confront, but to destabilize the automatic consensus. Your own loyal armies respect those who think differently with clarity, not those who merely follow along. Decisions based on real human nature show that people become vulnerable when they deviate from the script. Constant adaptability allows you to alternate between predictability and surprise, creating a balance that is difficult to decipher. And when you start to realize the impact of breaking patterns, an inevitable curiosity arises. If small disruptions already reveal so much, what happens when you start to directly test people's loyalty, even subtly? Most people believe loyalty is proven in big moments, when in reality, it's revealed in small frustrations. It's easy to be agreeable when everything flows smoothly, when you say yes, when you make things easy. But the real test begins when you deny something simple. A small request, a minimal favor. That's when behavior changes. Machiavelli already pointed out implicitly that politics guided by reality, not ideals, requires observing how people react when their interests are thwarted. Because while you meet expectations, you are useful. But when you set a limit, you discover who truly respects you. The end justifies the means, and a small refusal can be the most effective means of revealing great truths. Better to be feared than loved. Perhaps in this context, it's better to be respected than convenient. Imagine someone who always asks something of you: time, attention, help. One day you say, "I can't right now." Observe. Does the person understand? Do they insist? Do they become cold? Or do they try to blame you? Each reaction is a diagnosis, and diagnoses are power, because those who can't accept a small no will hardly respect a bigger limit in the future. Now, the most interesting thing is that this test can be done almost invisibly. Avoiding being hated here is fundamental. It's not about aggressively refusing, but about doing it naturally. The appearance of virtue remains intact. You are polite, clear, and direct, but firm. And this firmness creates a powerful filter. Virtù and fortuna favor those who know how to say no at the right time. Calculated use of force comes into play when you choose which refusal to apply and to whom. A practical example: someone asks you for something simple, like an immediate response or help with something that isn't a priority. Instead of automatically complying, you say, "I can't right now, but I'll look into it later." And then you observe. Does the person respect your time or try to pressure you? Loyal armies of their own form around those who set clear boundaries. Decisions based on real human nature show that many relationships are sustained by convenience disguised as friendship. Constant adaptability allows you to adjust your boundaries according to the other person's behavior. And when you start to see who remains respectful even when faced with a negative response, a new layer of understanding emerges. If a simple no already reveals so much, what happens when you stop listening to the words and start measuring only people's true focus? There's a subtle trap that ensnares even the most attentive, believing what people say instead of observing where they actually focus their attention. Words are easy. They're malleable, beautiful, strategically chosen. But focus is raw, it's limited, it's real, and that's why it reveals so much more. Machiavelli already indicated in a practical way that politics guided by reality, not by ideals, requires you to observe actions, not speeches. Because anyone can say they care, that they want to grow, that they value you, but where does that person invest their time, energy, priorities? The end justifies the means, and focus is the most honest means one possesses. Better to be feared than loved? Perhaps in this context, it's better to be observed than believed. Imagine someone who says they want to build something with you, but lives distracted, absent, always busy with other things. Words say one thing, focus says another, and focus never lies. It points out with precision what really matters to that person. And when you begin to see that, you realize that many promises are just noise. Now, measuring focus requires a type of attention that few develop. Avoiding being hated here means not confronting directly, but adjusting your perception. The appearance of virtue remains. You listen, agree, but observe. Virtu and fortuna favor those who see beyond the discourse. Calculated use of force comes into play when you decide to act based on observed focus, not on heard words. A practical example. Someone says they want to learn something new, but never dedicates real time to it. Or someone claims to value your presence, but never makes time in their schedule to see you. Your own loyal armies are not formed with promises, but with consistent presence. Decisions based on real human nature show that human beings prioritize what they consider essential, even if they don't admit it. Constant adaptability allows you to reassess relationships, opportunities, and even alliances based on this criterion. And when you start trusting focus more than words, a silent provocation arises. What if you created a situation where the person believed you had a weakness? How would they react upon perceiving this vulnerability? Few things expose human nature more than the perception of vulnerability. When someone believes you have a weakness, something changes in the air, the posture, the tone, the intention. And that's exactly why this tactic, when used intelligently, becomes a powerful reading tool. Machiavelli already understood that politics guided by reality, not ideals, requires testing the other in controlled scenarios. Because trusting without testing is naivete, and testing without exposing yourself is strategy. The end justifies the means, and here the means are simple. You create a fictitious vulnerability, something small, plausible, and observe. Better to be feared than loved? Perhaps in this case, it's more useful to appear vulnerable than invulnerable, temporarily. Imagine you casually mention a minor difficulty, something like, "Sometimes I have trouble negotiating prices," or "I'm not very good at saying no." And then you observe. Does the person try to help you? Advise you? Or do they see an opportunity to take advantage? That's the point. Because whoever respects your supposed weakness tends to respect you. But whoever tries to take advantage has already shown you exactly who they are. Now, the secret lies in subtlety. Avoiding being hated here means not dramatizing, not exaggerating. The weakness needs to seem natural, almost accidental. The appearance of virtue remains intact. You are not manipulating aggressively, only observing intelligently. Virtu and fortuna favor those who know how to test without compromising. Calculated use of force comes into play when you decide which weakness to simulate and in what context. A practical example: in a professional environment, you can mention a small technical insecurity and see how your colleagues react. Some will offer genuine support. Others may try to position themselves above you. Your own loyal armies reveal themselves in these moments. Who protects, who guides, who respects. Decisions based on real human nature show that behavior in the face of others' vulnerability is one of the clearest indicators of character. Constant adaptability allows you to adjust your confidence based on these responses. And when you start to see who approaches you to help and who approaches you to exploit you, a new strategic challenge arises. What happens when you start controlling people's waiting time and observe how they deal with it? Few things reveal someone's emotional state as quickly as waiting time, because waiting requires control, and control isn't something everyone possesses. When you make someone wait, whether for an answer, a response, or a decision, you create a small test of character. Machiavelli understood that politics guided by reality, not ideals, involves observing how people deal with what they cannot control. And time is exactly that. The end justifies the means, and time, here, is one of the most discreet and effective means of revealing impatience, anxiety, and the need for validation. Is it better to be feared than loved? In many cases, it's better to be unpredictable in timing than predictable in availability. Imagine someone sending a message and you don't respond immediately, even though you could. What happens? Does the person respect your time, or do they start sending multiple messages, pressuring you, showing anxiety? This behavior isn't about you. It's about them, about their level of self-control, about their tolerance for uncertainty. And those who don't know how to wait usually don't know how to build either. Now, using time as a tool requires precision. Avoiding being disliked is crucial here. It's not about ignoring or disrespecting, but about not being overly accessible. An appearance of virtue is maintained when you respond, of course, politely, present, but at your own pace. Virtù and fortuna favor those who dictate their own time, not those who react to the time of others. Calculated use of force comes into play when you decide when to respond, when to act, when to advance. A practical example, in negotiations or important interactions, you don't immediately respond to critical proposals or messages. You create space, and in that space, the other person begins to reveal more, sometimes even offering better conditions or showing anxiety. Your own loyal armies respect those who are not desperate for approval. Decisions based on real human nature show that impatience is a clear sign of emotional imbalance. Constant adaptability allows you to adjust your timing according to the context, sometimes fast, sometimes slow, but always intentional. And when you start to notice who remains calm and who becomes unsettled by the wait, a new layer of understanding emerges. If time reveals so much, what happens when you observe who people choose to imitate? There's a silent detail that reveals more about a person than any elaborate speech: who they choose to imitate. Because deep down, nobody imitates what they don't admire, and nobody admires what they don't want to be. Machiavelli already pointed out, albeit between the lines, that politics guided by reality, not ideals, requires observing references, not declarations. People may say they value authenticity, independence, original thought, but their behavior tells a different story. Observe their vocabulary, gestures, opinions, repeated almost like an echo. The end justifies the means, and imitation is one of the most obvious ways to identify hidden influences. Better to be feared than loved. Perhaps in this case, it's more strategic to understand who shapes the other than to try to shape them directly. Imagine someone who changes their way of speaking depending on who is around, or who repeats the ideas of a specific figure without questioning. This is not coincidence, it's alignment. And when you identify this pattern, you begin to see not only the person, but the system of influence behind them. Now, the most interesting thing is that imitation doesn't just happen in external behavior. It happens in the way of thinking. Avoiding being hated here means not directly confronting these influences, but using them as a strategic reading. The appearance of virtue is maintained. You observe, understand, but don't expose. Virtù and fortuna favor those who know how to identify who is really in control, even when it's not visible. Calculated use of force comes into play when you decide to position yourself in alignment with or in contrast to these references. A practical example: in a professional environment, you notice that someone always follows the style of a specific leader. Language, decisions, posture. By understanding this, you can anticipate reactions, predict choices, and even indirectly influence by adjusting your communication. Your own loyal armies are not formed solely through direct leadership, but through replicated influence. Decisions based on real human nature show that most people seek belonging before authenticity. Constant adaptability allows you to navigate between different profiles, understanding who is original and who is a reflection. And when you start to identify who people imitate, an inevitable question arises: what happens when you awaken in them an even more powerful feeling? Like envy. Few feelings are as revealing as envy, because it rarely hides completely. It escapes in the details, in the look, the tone, the restrained reaction. And when you learn to subtly awaken it, you access a deep layer of human nature. Machiavelli understood that politics guided by reality, not by ideals, requires observing not only what people show, but what they try to hide. And envy is exactly that. A feeling that reveals comparison, insecurity, repressed desire. The end justifies the means, and here the means are not ostentation but strategic contrast. Better to be feared than loved. Perhaps in this context it is more effective to be admired, but not totally accessible. Imagine you mentioning naturally an achievement, an evolution, something positive that doesn't seem forced, and then observe. Does the person genuinely celebrate? Do they remain silent? Do they minimize it? Do they change the subject? Each reaction is a sign, because those who are comfortable with themselves tend to recognize the growth of others, but those who are not reveal it, even if they try to disguise it. Now, arousing envy isn't about provoking or humiliating, it's about observing responses to real stimuli. Avoiding being hated here is essential. You don't want to create direct conflict, but rather strategic reading. An appearance of virtue remains. You share lightly without exaggeration, without needing validation. Virtù and fortuna favor those who know how to expose just enough to observe. Calculated use of force comes into play when you choose what to show and to whom. A practical example: you comment on a new project, a personal improvement, or an interesting opportunity. Not to impress, but to observe. Your own loyal armies reveal themselves in these moments. Who supports you? Who approaches you? Who distances themselves? Decisions based on real human nature show that envy isn't about you. It's about the other person. Constant adaptability allows you to adjust your confidence based on these reactions. And when you start to notice who vibrates with you and who is bothered by your growth, an even more direct question arises. What happens when you go further and ask bluntly, what does this person hate? There's a simple, almost innocent question, but one that carries an absurd power of revelation. What do you hate? While many focus on asking about dreams, goals, and preferences, the more strategic understand that what someone rejects says much more than what they say they like. Machiavelli already indicated that politics guided by reality, not by ideals, requires looking at the extremes, because it is in the extremes that the truth appears. The end justifies the means, and here the means are direct. You don't need beating around the bush to access deep patterns. Better to be feared than loved. Perhaps in this case it's more effective to be curious than impressive, because when someone talks about what they hate, they lower their guard. They speak with emotion, with intensity, without a filter. And it is at this moment that values, traumas, beliefs, and insecurities emerge. Imagine someone saying they hate fake people. Observe. Often this reveals an exaggerated sensitivity to rejection, or even a tendency to judge quickly, or someone who says they hate slow people. This may indicate impatience, anxiety, a need for control. Each response is a map. And the more you listen, the more you understand how that person reacts to the world. Now, the secret lies in listening without judging. Avoiding being hated here means not confronting, not correcting, not engaging in debate. Just observe. The appearance of virtue is maintained. You demonstrate genuine interest without seeming intrusive. Virtu and fortuna favor those who know how to ask simple questions with deep intention. Calculated use of force comes into play when you decide when to ask this question and in what context. It works best in moments of lightness, where the person doesn't realize they are being read. A practical example: in a casual conversation you ask, "What type of person irritates you the most?" And then you observe not only the answer, but the emotion behind it. Your own loyal armies are formed when you understand the limits and triggers of others. Decisions based on real human nature show that what someone hates is often a reflection of what they haven't resolved internally. Constant adaptability allows you to adjust your approach based on this information. And when you start to notice these patterns, a new, even more subtle layer of interpretation emerges. What happens when you stop listening for words and start observing the moments when the person simply looks away? There's an almost imperceptible moment in every interaction, a microsecond where the truth tries to escape before it can be controlled. And that moment is often in the eyes, because words can be rehearsed, gestures can be controlled, but the eyes betray. Machiavelli already understood, in essence, that politics guided by reality, not by ideals, demands attention to unspoken signals. The end justifies the means. And here, the means is observing what most ignore. Better to be feared than loved. Perhaps in this case, it's more strategic to be attentive than convincing. Imagine you're asking a simple but direct question, and at the moment of the answer, the person looks away for a second. This isn't random. It could indicate discomfort, hesitation, an attempt to hide something, or even internal conflict. The gaze is like a reflection of the unconscious trying to escape. And when you start to perceive these micro-signals, you begin to read not only what is said, but what is avoided. Now, observing someone's gaze requires total presence. Avoiding being hated here means not staring invasively or intimidatingly, but naturally, almost nonchalantly. An appearance of virtue is maintained. You simply seem attentive, interested. Virtu and fortuna favor those who perceive invisible details. Calculated use of force comes into play when you decide whether or not to delve deeper after noticing this shift. A practical example: you ask something like, "Did you really like that decision?" and notice a slight shift in gaze before a positive response. This is a signal, not to confront immediately, but to remember. Your own loyal armies form around those who understand signals before they become problems. Decisions based on real human nature show that the body often reveals what the mind tries to hide. Constant adaptability allows you to adjust your reading according to the context. Not every shift is a lie, but every shift carries information. And when you begin to see these details, an even more sophisticated provocation arises. What happens when you decide to mirror the person's behavior, creating a silent friction that they cannot explain? There's a silent, almost invisible technique that directly affects people's subconscious, and most don't even realize they're being affected by it. Mirroring behavior isn't just imitating, it's reflecting strategically, creating a slight discomfort that forces the other person to see themselves. Machiavelli already understood that politics guided by reality, not ideals. requires manipulating perceptions without appearing to be doing so. The end justifies the means. And here, the means are simple. You become a mirror. Better to be feared than loved. Perhaps in this case, it's more effective to be disconcerting than agreeable. Imagine someone who speaks arrogantly, interrupts, imposes a rhythm. Instead of reacting with direct confrontation, you subtly begin to reflect that behavior. Not excessively, but enough for the person to feel it. Something changes. They begin to perceive, even unconsciously, their own pattern, and this generates friction, because nobody likes to see themselves when they're not ready for it. And it's in this friction that the mask begins to crack. Now, the secret lies in the dosage. Avoiding being hated here is essential. If you overdo it, it becomes confrontation. If you do it precisely, it becomes productive discomfort. The appearance of virtue is maintained. You seem to be merely adjusting your energy, your rhythm. Virtù and fortuna favor those who know how to calibrate this mirroring. Calculated use of force comes into play when you decide which behavior to reflect and for how long. A practical example. Someone responds in a dry and impersonal way. You adjust your communication to a similar level, without hostility, just neutrality. The person begins to feel the difference. Or someone constantly invades your space. You do the same, lightly, and observe the reaction. Your own loyal armies respect those who do not passively submit, but also do not engage in direct conflict. Decisions based on real human nature show that human beings learn more through discomfort than through explanation. Constant adaptability allows you to enter and exit this mirroring as needed. And when you begin to realize the impact of this technique, one last move emerges, perhaps the most refined of all. What happens when you completely disarm the person with respect before asking the most surgical question possible? There's a common mistake that destroys most attempts to extract the truth from someone, attacking too directly. When a person feels pressured, judged, or cornered, they shut down. They create barriers. They protect themselves. And you lose access to what really matters, but the most strategic do the opposite. They disarm first, and then advance. Machiavelli already made it clear that politics guided by reality, not by ideals, requires emotional intelligence before any more incisive move. The end justifies the means, and here the means is strategic respect. Is it better to be feared than loved? At certain times, it's better to be trustworthy before being incisive. Imagine you need to ask a delicate question, something that might generate resistance. Instead of going straight to the point, you start by acknowledging something positive, validating the other person, creating a safe environment. Something like, "I understand your point, it makes sense, but tell me something honestly." At that moment, the guard is down, and when the question comes, it goes in. Because you didn't attack, you prepared, and preparation is half the victory. Now, the power of this technique lies in the combination of gentleness and precision. Avoiding being disliked is essential here. Respect isn't feigned, it's functional. An appearance of virtue becomes a bridge to access. Virtù and fortuna favor those who know how to balance firmness and empathy. The calculated use of force comes into play precisely at the moment of the question. It needs to be clear, direct, impossible to circumvent. A practical example, in a professional conversation you can say, "I greatly value your vision, and I know you think strategically, so tell me, what would really make you give up on this project?" The person feels recognized and responds with more honesty. Your own loyal armies are built on trust, not just authority. Decisions based on real human nature show that people speak more when they feel safe than when they feel pressured. Constant adaptability allows you to adjust the level of gentleness and intensity according to the other person's profile. And when you master this sequence, observing, testing, breaking patterns, reading signals, you realize you're not just conversing, you're leading. And it is precisely here that everything begins to connect. Now let me ask you a direct question. How many conversations in your life have you truly led, and how many have you merely reacted to? Most people spend years talking, without ever realizing they are being read, tested, led. And that's not a lack of ability, it's a lack of strategic awareness. Because the moment you start applying these principles, observing, testing, silencing, breaking patterns, measuring focus, creating small frictions, something changes. You cease to be predictable. And when you cease to be predictable, you cease to be manipulable. Machiavelli already made it clear that politics guided by reality, not by ideals, requires you to see the game as it is, not as you would like it to be. The end justifies the means, and your means now is applied knowledge. It's no use watching, agreeing, and following as before. Power only exists when it is used. So tell me, which of these techniques have you noticed someone using on you, and which one will you start applying today? And here's a point that can completely change how you position yourself in the world. You don't need to confront to dominate. You need to understand. Is it better to be feared than loved? Sometimes it's better to be respected in silence than validated excessively. Because those who understand human behavior don't need to prove anything. They just observe, adjust, and act at the right moment. An appearance of virtue may open doors, but it's the calculated use of force that keeps you in control. Virtù and fortuna favor those who prepare, not those who improvise. So now it's up to you. Start small. Observe more. Speak less. Test without exposing. Adjust without announcing. And come back here to tell me what changed. If this kind of knowledge made sense to you, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Because what you saw here is just the beginning of a game that most don't even realize they're playing.